We have with us Honorary Brigadier Dr. Anand Lal, Padma Shri Executive Chairman Dr. Lal PathLabs Limited, CA Dr. Vijaya Kumar Sahu, Founder and Mentor Sai International Education Group, Mr. Chetan Jain, Director Inspira Private Limited, Mr. Jain Mehta, CMO, Senior General Manager, Planning and Marketing, GCMMF, more popularly known as AMUL, Mr. Raju Bharat, Managing Director, Kenilworth Hotels, India, and the session will be moderated by Mr. Aditya Hans. So I would request Aditya to please take the session forward and welcome you all to this industry perspectives on the Union Budget 21-22.
I am looking at the profile of all the panelists. I am somewhere tempted to speak a little more about them before we get into the session. The CA, Dr. Vijay Kumar Sahu, founder and mentor, Sai International Education Group. Well, I take pride he is from my fraternity, the Chartered Accountant fraternity. It gives me immense pride that someone from the Chartered Accountant, a cost accountant, and a graduate in law, who's today an educationist, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and he's brought a pioneering revolution in the education scenario of Odisha with his innovative approaches to nurture children through value-based and internationally benchmark education. He's a founder and mentor of Sai International Education Group, comprising Sai International School, Sai Angan, Sai International Residence School, Sai International College of Commerce. He's an advisor cum working president of Odisha Adarsh Vidyalaya Sangathan, appointed by the government of Odisha in the rank and status of Minister of State, with a mission to establish 314 CBSE English medium schools in each block of Odisha. Dr. Sahu, so it's so good to see that how he is involved in changing the education, the scenario around education. So this is way before the national education policy was announced. So his initiatives in Odisha are reaping, the population of Odisha is reaping the benefits, and there's more to come. I remember meeting up with him and he was telling me what the Chief Minister and Mr. Sahu, Dr. Sahu are doing. It is amazing, I can tell you. He was bestowed with the most coveted Quality Champion Award in 2020 for his perfection of process and dedication to quality education and his contribution towards innovation, digital technology, and scientific development. And again, the Chartered Accountant, Cost Accountant, a graduate in law, Master in Business Administration, specializing in finance and treasury, doctorate in commerce, and so goes on. That's Dr. Sahu for you. He has a mission in life, which is let's build a better India through education. I would like to take a perspective from Dr. Sahu. Do you agree with what Dr. Lal says, or you have a little different view? The government could have done a lot more because you're on the ground at Odisha. What is your take on this?
At the outset, I'd like to thank BCCI and Dhruv for giving me this opportunity, and Aditya, a friend and colleague, for inviting me to share my views. I agree to Dr. Lal's statement that we were first conscious that health is a priority, first time in India. I also agree to the fact that when you said the economic survey report, to me also appeared that it was on the defensive. Like, good batsman, when he's not anticipating how the ball is going to swing, he'll rather be defensive than scoring runs. So that's what I think the economic survey report did. The economic survey report was justifying the actions of the last 9-10 months rather than telling what India should have done or what India is going to do. More is on, that we saved 1 lakh lives, we did a calibrated flow of the incentives, we were conserving the resources for the bad times to come. So I felt when somebody goes into defensive, there is some issue there. So I'll not elaborate on that. The other issue I like to say that, yes, there was no historical recording of 1918 Spanish flu. And the situation then and the situation now are absolutely different. However, can a country which is aspiring to be a 5 trillion economy have such state of health and education. Had this lockdown not happened, I do not know what havoc it would have created. Yes, the lockdown saved lives. But why the lockdown was announced? Because not probably to save more lives, probably to ramp up the health infrastructure. As Dr. Lal was telling that we had only 2 testing labs. Can you imagine a country of this diversity and this size having just 2 labs to test? And I know from Orissa, the samples were being sent to Pune, in the initial months. The health infrastructure was absolutely a desire, and it took time, but resilient India could come up. But worse than that, was the impact on education and on the economy. Education, as such, India's school education and to some extent the higher education, the qualitative parameters, if you see, the beautiful report published by CSF, states that of the 50% of the 25 crore children are in the school education, out of which around 12 crore children are in the private system and about 13 lakh children in the government system. Is it pathetic for me to confess here that out of these 13 crore children who are in the school education in the government sector, 80% of them were out of schools. And there was no way that this digital education or online education could reach them. And that's the state of affairs. And even in the private sector, almost 60% could be reached, and around 40%, children, even in private schools, could not give the required digital education. And on the economy side, if you see, the way the migrant labor issue could not be handled, that cascaded, the pain of larger India. There was time, for ramping up the infrastructure probably for the migrant workers, or devising some means of containing them in their workplace rather than moving and, creating more of problems. The way the mini budgets, 5 mini budgets were announced, and these 5 mini budgets coming into reality took little time, and for the banks giving the benefit to the entrepreneurs is still to come. So I think there was some, the intention of government was absolutely clear and loud. However, the process and the delivery system that we have in India probably, created the roadblocks. That's what is the budget, the last leg of the budget says that, a minimum government and maximum governance. And that is a reality, it's required. I feel much could have been done. I'll not tell that let's ape West, because, the trade-off between life and livelihood, India has done far better. If we see the samples research done by Economic Times, where the government did well as far as the pandemic is concerned, India did extremely well in handling the pandemic. India did extremely well in rolling out of the vaccine. However, India did extremely bad in handling the economy and the fiscal stimulus. It mishandled the migrant work crisis, it mishandled the farmer issues, and it mishandled the economy. So this is what the Times of India survey says. So this is, I think, what are my initial remarks on this. But as you know, India has always come out of any crisis. That's why, India is always said, India is a country of jugaad. So even the policies are in a particular place, we as Indians are so resilient, we will find our way to come out of the crisis and build India to be better India. That's with that hope that we'll be able to build a much better India. I think let's all be very positive and optimistic.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. That's a very, very interesting perspective. The next question, which is on the education sector. Due to lockdown, online schooling took off in a big way, and the government introduced several measures to make online education accessible to all children. India will have the highest population of young people in the world over the next decade. National Education Policy 2020 was introduced to provide high quality education opportunities to children. In the budget 21-22, government had mentioned about setting up Higher Education Commission of India, revamping the post-matric scholarship for the welfare of scheduled castes, establish 100 new Sainik schools and 750 equivalent schools in tribal region. More than 15,000 schools will be qualitatively strengthened to include all components of the national education policy. In spite of the government spending 3.5% of the GDP during the period 14-15 to 2021, an inflow of FDI to the extent of 3,245 million, India has performed below expectations in developing its primary and secondary education. India ranks 107. And at least there is a view that the main reason for poor performance is the poor pupil-teacher ratio, where we rank 118. What more can the government do? It's spending 3.5% of the GDP. So that's an ask. And if you look at the graph, where does India stand? It's in a very bad situation compared to the developed countries. So if you want to catch up with the Brazil, China, UK, US, Japan, we have a long way to go. Dr. Saab, I invite your views on this.
Thank you, Aditya, again for a very, very critical and pertinent question. All of us sitting in this panel are sitting here because of our education and our educational background. And that speaks for any developed nation. Education has to be the core. First, health and education. These are the two things which make a country great. If you go through the basis on which the NEP document 2020 has been prepared, the basis was based on the survey that in India, unfortunately, 60% of the children who are in class 5 do not have the numeracy skill of class 2 and the literacy skill of class 1. And that's the fundamental basis on which you see the NEP document has been prepared, where the maximum emphasis has been given to the numeracy and literacy skills, and checkpoints have been decided. The checkpoint system is not new. Checkpoint system has been proven in UK, USA, Finland. But where I'm coming from is, this is one sector where definitely a lot needs to be done. But the good fact is the present government is conscious that the education system needs to be revamped. So that government is also aware that the percentage GDP spent is half of what is being spent to make education to the international standard. So 6% is expected. And we are presently now hovering around 3.5 to 4% over the last 3-4 years. But I hope the way things are being planned, it will go to 6%. Now, where are the issues? The issues were in the structural reforms and the quality of the teaching learning processes, because we cannot blame the children. Children are raw. Children, brain develops between the age of 0 to 5. And in that period, if we are not able to intervene properly, I feel, we are making a larger mass of our population, unemployable. The fact that India, again, which is the government report, that about 70% of the graduates are graduates for the certificate's sake, but they do not have the skill to be employed into the various sectors of our developing and emerging economies. So the need of the hour is the structural reforms, and that has been very, very nicely depicted in the NEP 2020, where the concept of education 3+5 plus 3+4 is to be replaced from this 10+2 system, and the vocation and skill augmentation will be brought after the checkpoint of 8. That means 9, 10, 11, 12. The child knows what the child is good at, and accordingly, the skill of the child will be developed. If we look at the intervention, these are the intent, and the intent of the government and the document very, very nicely, and I think one of the best documents prepared by the Dr. Kasturi Rangan committee is, I think, one of the best reforms that could have been thought of, not only into bringing into India the autonomy into education sector, but also make it more democratic and improving the quality. Some of the features, if you give me time, I like to highlight how the projections have been made, and where some things could have been a little better. But however, as you have already stated, the 15,000 schools to be made as other schools. What has been seen is why the central government-sponsored schools like the Navodayas and the KVs are doing better, and the state-run, because education is a state subject, and the state-run schools are not doing better. So probably here comes the intervention of center, that every block there will be at least one primary school which will become a model school, which can be the anchor for the school cluster, which is all again provided in the policy. There is a lot of anomaly as far as the higher education was concerned. I'll come to the school education a little later, but there was a lot of anomaly on the higher education concern, because there are too many regulatory authorities, to regulate, the school sector. Unfortunately, again, in our process of ease of doing business and digitization, what has in fact happened, I will only, stick to what has happened in the school and in the education sector. More of regulations have come in, and more of checkpoints have been put in where the approvals are required. So maybe in the education sector, we are slowly moving into the license Raj indirectly, where I think a lot of loosening is required if you want to build the education infrastructure. The second aspect, which I think could have been a little done better, is the infrastructure funding for education sector. Unfortunately, in India till date, education was considered as philanthropy, unlike in the rest of the world. So if education is considered as philanthropy and out of CSR, so it is only out of the surplus of the corporates or the philanthropic purpose, we will be able to build education. But first time in the NEP document, if you see a word has come that there will be three types of schools. One will be the government schools, which are the public schools. The others will be the private schools, and the third will be the philanthropy schools. For the first time in India, the private schools are being considered and recognized, and the private educational institutions, higher educations, are for the first time being considered as builders, which is an extremely positive step taken by government. So I think now the private players should come 2 steps to support the government with this initiative to develop the education infrastructure of our country. The setting up of the National Higher Education Commission, I'm sure, is going to bring sanity of the higher ed, which was being controlled and monitored by 4 or 5 agencies like the UGC, like the the Medical Council of India, the engineering was by a different body. So there were a lot of higher ed regulatory authorities, which now I think is going to be into a single authority. And, the setting of the school standard authority in every state, I am sure is not only going to ramp up the quality of education of the government schools, but also of the private schools, which is extremely, extremely crucial. The setting up of the national professional standards for teachers. Teachers are at the core of education, whether they're the faculty in the higher ed or the faculty in the school education, they are the core, and no process, no digitization, no electronic or edtech intervention can replace a student from a teacher, because it's not just the flow of information to the child. There is also emotional quotient, or there is also an emotional development which takes place because of the relationship between a teacher and a student. So nothing in the world can replace a teacher. So in that context, we need to improve the quality of a teacher. So if you see the budget document says the 92 lakh teachers will be trained in the national education policy. And this training, 92 lakh teachers to be trained, is not face-to-face or physically. Here comes the digital intervention. The edtech companies of India will go at tenfold increase in the coming 4 to 5 years. Here is a take, and that you saw the way, whatever FDI inflow of, 45 million you're talking of is purely 95% on the edtech, and maybe one or two will take the major chunk. Maybe I will not name, but all of us know where this money has gone. So the way we will be able to reach to the last mile child of India in the remotest corner is through edtech. And there has to be a mentor in each of these hamlets, and the flow of the quality education by means of edtech, which will revamp the entire system of education of our country. I am very hopeful that India will definitely look up to a situation where you can have a complete online school, where you can do the registration and you can read online, you can clarify your doubts online, you can have a one-to-one session, because you can uniquely do that through the technology. And once this is done, it's a question of testing and certifying that you have that, and that can be done through a testing agency, which I'm sure India is looking up. So, as I said, the reforms of the examination and the testing, we always say that as the PISA is concerned, India is lagging behind, but we should also look at the strengths of India. Wherever the situation of India for education is concerned, as I said, in the research in India, the resilient Indians have always shown that in spite of all this, still we take education to our utmost priority. And that's why you see most of probably the bigger MNCs, India and abroad, are managed by Indians. That's because of not only of the type of grilling that we go through, the type of testing that is there all through in our life, but I think the amount of hardship that makes we Indians very strong. Having said that, I think a lot of issues are there as far as the pedagogy is concerned, which the NEP document is trying to address that. And I am in the in the consultative process of the NEP implementation. About 500 flow points have been made, where this time the entire government as well as all the implementing agencies are sure that they'll be able to, as a team, implement almost 85 to 90% of the NEP suggestions. If that's done, in the coming 5 years, the discussion, if we have the same discussion after 5 years, it will be at a different level and a different figure and the different graphs you will be showing us. So I think we are at the influx point. Everybody is now conscious of what is to be done. Government of India, as you said, this time government comes with constructive suggestions, constructive processes, and listens to people, listens to suggestion, and is at least open to try. This is what was lacking in India. Trying is better than not trying and failing. Trying and failing is acceptable because we learn from mistakes. But not trying and not implementing was breaking India. I think we are in the right path, and education focus, health focus will build India to be one of the brightest nations. I am very confident in the coming 5 years, irrespective of government, irrespective of the economy, irrespective of V-shape, K-shape, whatever the economists say, India is going to be one of the most developed nations in the coming 5 to 6 years because of our intrinsic strength, because of our internal demand. Tourism sector, if we are thinking of, this is the first time I see in tourism, Indians are exploring the destinations within India.
Your passion for the education sector, and that's why your school, within the span of last 10 years, has reached such a great ranking, in one of the best rankings in India. When you speak with the passion around education, it gets reflected in that. Please also make a closing statement. How would you rate the budget on a scale of 1 to 5?
We know as in India, where do we stand? But I think there is first time a hope that India can fare better, and India is recognizing to do it better. And I think this government is listening and trying to do things better. The biggest problem, I think, for business and for any entity in India, personally for me, if I look at, is the enforcement of contract. So it probably comes from, whether you want to be a Ram or you want to be Krishna. So if you are in the Ram age, probably it is right or wrong. And if you are wrong, you're just, punished. But if you are Krishna, in the wrong thing, if you do it the right way, or if you do it through the legal system or the laws, not breaking the laws, but you do a wrong thing, you'll never be caught. So I think India is in the phase of Mahabharata, Krishna, where, if you have done something wrong, but illegally admittable, you can never be punished, and it can go on for years and years, even for generations. I think that needs to change. So I think we have to probably go into the Ram age rather than the Krishna age. And the number, yeah, I know you'll ask me the number. So if whatever is stated in the budget, as a Dr. Lal said, I am fully, in agreement with him. I think if the intent is there, but if it is implemented, I will give a 7 out of 10 for this budget. In this time, there could not have been a better budget than this.